Welcome back to Home Theater Gurus. This is episode 31. So maybe you have a living room and you don't have room for big 18s, you know, all these subwoofer kits that are out in the DIY realm, you know, everything's huge, you know, 18s and 21s, and the enclosures are, ginormous. And I've had, those enclosures that size. I mean, they weren't someone else's design, they were mine. But when you have an 18 and you want to get the most out of it, you're going to need a large enclosure, 12 cubic feet, which mine were 6 feet tall. I mean, here they are right here. That's a dolly in the picture, and you can see how big they are compared to that dolly. Now, this is what a lot of people are putting in their living rooms, which is perfectly fine, as long as the wife or the girlfriend doesn't kick you out of the house and everybody's happy with it and you've got room for it. But we don't always have room for it. We shouldn't be discouraged about trying the DIY subs, if that's something we want to do, just because we can't fit these ginormous subs in our room. But we also want the same impact. We want that deep bass, we want that good slamming bass, and we want it at a good price. That's what the DIY world brings. When you do subwoofers and you design subwoofers and you build them, I mean, you're getting a tremendous bang for your buck. But the 12s, a 12-inch driver can be put into a box the quarter the size, something that you can actually put in your living room and have tremendous output. And a little word on that, I had a friend of mine, and he came to me, and I've been building subs for 20 years, a little backstory there. And so I do build and design subs, kind of on the side, really design. Someone needs a design, they can come to me and I'll give them a design, show them the responses, and help them make a choice, and then they have to go build it. So that's what I did. A friend of mine had some 18s, some Marty subs, and didn't have room for any more. He had 2, but he wanted more output, and he needed some to smooth the response in his room. So we looked at different drivers, and we ended up going with a Ultimax 12. And I think it was like a 3.5, maybe a 3 cubic foot box, and we tuned it in the low 20s. And when it was done, he actually said that if he would have heard this sub first or built these 12s first, he would have never got the 18s. He was that impressed with them, and that's not unheard of. I mean, that's just the way it is. When you have really good drivers and you tune them properly, you're going to get some massive output. But when you start going lower and asking a subwoofer, really below 20 hertz, and especially if you're trying to go below 15, I mean, you need that air displacement. It's really going to help, and it's not going to be fair when you compare an 18 to like a 12. But, for the most part, a 12 is just fine down to like, say, 20 hertz. It's going to quench most people's appetite perfectly fine. Once they're aligned right, you're going to be extremely impressed. But anyway, you probably don't want to hear a bunch of stories, but I'm going to tell you one more. Back around 1999, maybe 2000, around that time frame, that's when I first built my first subwoofer. And back then, everything was Sonotubes. Okay, I mean, you had SVS, they were popular for their Sonotube subs, and a Sonotube was basically just a tube with, the driver and the port on the bottom, or sometimes the port would be on top. But you could go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you could buy a concrete Sonotube. And it was just cordboard that was, in a tube. It was designed to pour concrete into to make pillars. But anyway, it was very popular. It was a real easy build. You could take a router, you just cut out the circles, cut 2 of them, one fit inside there. On both ends, you make 2 end caps. Basically, you're done. Your enclosure is done. You don't need bracing because of the outward pressure is equal. Anyway, it was super simple. Here's the one I did, my first Sonotube sub, my first sub that I built. I used an Adair DPL-12. Now back then, Adair audio was just as popular as Dayton. Dayton was around back then, but Adair was actually more popular in the home theater crowd. I mean, they were everywhere. Everyone wanted, the Tempest. Everyone wanted the Tempest, and they had, their 12s and 15s. They were just everywhere. Super, super popular. But now the DI crowd was different than it is today. Now everyone's buying kits. Back then, everyone designed their own sub. And it was a much smaller crowd. That's what I did. I got this driver, I modeled it, I built my sub, and there was a local mom and pop shop that sold Paradigm and clips, downtown, and I went there all the time. I had some Paradigms, some, that I had bought from them. I had some clips I bought from them. So I go there, and I've already built my subs at this point. This is, just one of the times I went there. So I'd always listen to speakers over there. So I knew what they sounded like, and I'd heard their room. They had a couple rooms set up, really nice theater, dedicated room with I think it had 3 seats, tiered seats of home theater seating, a big screen, and a bunch of clips and Paradigm speakers all lined up against the wall. And subwoofers, they had their high dollar, Paradigm subwoofers. They were like $1,200, $1,300 bucks. So I wanted to see how my subs compared to their subs. And you know, you have all this demo material that's always popular. Back then it was the Nemo glass tap. You know, there's a scene with the little girl, you know, with the braces, the bad one, when she's going over there and she's banging on the fish tank, you know, banging on it. And you know, with a good subwoofer, and like the one I had built, when that hit, I could hear the glass, like the glass was, you know, reverberating back and forth. And I mean, you could like hear the sound waves. Like, I mean, it was like you were in the fish tank. It was brutal bass, but it was extremely clear. I mean, it was just awesome. And that was a really popular scene back then. You know, we didn't have a lot to choose from, but Pixar had a lot of bass in their movies, and that one was just awesome. So I went to the Paradigm shop, you know, the local mom and pop, and I asked the guy to play that scene, and he played it, and it sounded like garbage. Now, you remember, you have to keep in mind, I had $300, maybe $350 invested in my subwoofer, and here I am listening to a $1,200 plus subwoofer, and it sounds horrible. I mean, the little girl's hitting the glass, it's distorting, there's no clarity, there's no detail in the glass, you know, bouncing back and forth. You can't hear any of it. It's struggling, and it's not even that loud. And I mean, of course, the sales guy, he's grinning like, you know, he doesn't know any better. To him, it sounds good. And to me, it may have sounded good too before I built my subwoofer. And so since that day, I've never owned another store-bought sub. And that was, you know, 20 years ago. You know, my little cheap $350 subwoofer that I built, and I mean, I had a jigsaw back then. I didn't even use a router, actually. I built it in my kitchen, and it completely destroyed this high dollar subwoofer. So, you know, at that point I was hooked, you know, and I just started modeling more subs, and, you know, the DIY kind of took over in me. I actually made my own projectors ripping LCD panels apart, and, you know, like a speaker box in the room projected on the wall. And my best friend would come over, and we would actually take a bed sheet, we'd hang it over the entertainment center, and we would project onto that sheet, and we would watch or play Halo, and we'd watch movies, but usually we were playing Halo. Had the old Xbox, you know, back then. And so we had a lot of fun doing that. So DIY has just always been in my blood. I love it. All right, so now enough of that. Onto the subwoofer we're going to be building. I need a subwoofer, you know, to do my Odyssey test, so I can show you guys how to use Odyssey, or how I suggest you use it, how to use the app, where to set your limits, where to EQ, where not to EQ. So I need a sub. But now in my new house, the living room, I'm going to have big, huge towers with built-in subs. I probably do 12s, maybe 15s. You know, I want something nice and huge and massive, and you walk in and just like, you know, I want the wow. Now, I don't want subs anywhere in the room. I'm going to have, you know, 2 subs in each tower. So the movie room, I'm also going to have a theater room. It's going to be a no compromise theater. So I'm not building that right now either. But in my bedroom, I'm actually going to have probably a 5.1.2. Now this subwoofer is going to go under the bed. So we're going to be making a little bit different style of subwoofer. It's going to be down firing, probably a port on the side, and it's going to go under the bed. So it's going to have to be slim, but that doesn't mean it's going to be weak or not have a tremendous amount of bass. We still want that. And another good thing about placing a sub underneath the bed is basically, you know, that's the listening position. Anytime you have a sub placed in the listening position, you fix the modes there. If you remember from our room mode episode, we kind of go over that. And, you know, if you remember, you can position subs at a room mode and fix it. So we actually should have really good bass by using one single subwoofer right underneath the seats, or right underneath the bed. And we're going to name the subwoofer too. Now, so, you know, you guys can throw some comments down there with names for the subwoofer. I know it's in a bedroom, so it could get a little wild. You know, I mean, the jackhammer, I don't know what you guys are going to come up with, but the name I pick's going to have to be kind of G-rated. But we want something powerful. You know, this is going to be a brutal sub. It's going to be a good sub, and you're going to be able to, you know, you could use this same volume and tuning and just make it a different, you know, a shape and use it anywhere. So we'll probably look at that too. Maybe I'll kind of make a cut sheet, you know, something that may look better in a living room, but if, again, mine's going to be going under my bed. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this one. I've had people ask me questions, you know, so this just kind of answers some of those questions about how I got into subwoofer making or building, and a little backstory there, and, you know, kind of explain why we're doing DIY instead of, you know, going out and just buying something. So the next episode, we're going to jump right into it on the laptop, and you can watch me, you know, use the program, and I'll explain to you what's happening. You'll be able to see everything, you know, as I do it. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know the next videos come out. And I'm going to go ahead and start shooting the next episode where I'm actually going to start designing subs. So you're going to see at the beginning, I'm going to have the same shirt on because I'm doing it right now.